Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me on Candid Frank Live is the wonderful and vivacious Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Frank. Every time you come up with some new way to describe me, I'm never quite sure if it absolutely fits, and I love it.
I try. Next week it'll be the beer swollen. No, that one's one every week. Anyway, yeah. So we don't normally do this, but I'm more than happy to do it. A very big story, one that concerns one of our viewers, and it has to do with flights being sent to Tonga because of a volcanic eruption that did a lot of damage. First of all, can I assume that because you were contacted by our viewer, may I assume that his concern is that not enough presence from the world is there to help them be, to understand what's going on there?
That's correct. As my friend Michael in New Zealand actually messaged me to ask me to at least put this in the show because I know that not a lot of attention was being paid to it. Hi, Michael. I miss you, bud. It's been a while since we've run something in Warcraft. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. But yeah, the explosion of Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcano, which is about 64 kilometers north of Nuku'alofa, is something that's been a huge problem. It's knocked out pretty much all communications.
When did it happen, Aaron?
We're looking here at it actually happened last week, believe it or not.
Doesn't matter.
We've been late on covering this. It actually happened over the weekend. A lot of published reports are coming out now saying that military surveillance flights have been in to try to assess damage because there was a huge undersea volcanic eruption. The place they've been covered in ash.
That's the thing that happens. It's not just the fire and molten lava that's a concern. It's the eruption creates a lot of ash and becomes a health hazard.
Yeah, and the other issue we have here is tsunami waves have been generated by this as well. Because it was a massive eruption underseas, it's been something that's been crushing the nation since, and it's not. It's really bad. People are trying to shelter in place and stay indoors, but the ash just keeps piling up, and there's now a question as to whether or not key infrastructure is going to be able to survive. So if you have the opportunity, look this up. See if there's a way that you can contribute somehow. I know for a lot of us, times are tight, and donating money to these sorts of things isn't always top of mind. But this is something that's going to affect all of us and is affecting a lot of people that a lot of us know. So look into it if you can. Spare some time to read up about it and give if you can.
Sadly, there has been life lost. Gratefully, not a great deal of lives, but any life it makes it a tragedy. But I just so that people understand that this is something that did cause death. And as always with things like this, and especially with a tsunami, we're talking about a lot of destruction, a lot of damage. And, whenever that kind of stuff happens, that just like us, folks, everybody spends a lifetime building what they have. And if it's taken away from you in one instant, it doesn't come back in an instant. You're basically starting over. And what these people are asking for and looking for is an opportunity to at least not have to start completely over. Right, Aaron?
Exactly. And one of the major problems that they have here is there is one fiber optic cable that connects Tonga with the outside world. And that has unfortunately been damaged or destroyed by the eruption. So they have been in discussion with New Zealand about getting a second international fiber optic cable to ensure that they had a more robust network. But because of the island's location, it's been difficult to try to get that resolved and hammered out. So
I just realized something. Something just popped into my head that isn't The Rock from Tonga? Isn't his background from Tonga?
Now, are we talking about kayfabe or are we talking about the actual person?
No, the actor.
That's actually a very good question. He was born in Hayward, California.
But
So
I know that I remember watching a movie once, and I believe he went back to Tonga. And then I read that he actually was, or he had family back there. That's where his mother and or father came from originally. We should check that. That to me, that's I just see a candidate that could help, right?
well, definitely. I mean,
I'll get on my phone and give him a call and ask him to step up. What do you think? What do you think? Get on my phone. Hey, step up, would you?
Certainly worth a shot. I
Step up.
believe it was actually just part of a character that he played in one of his movies. But The Rock certainly does have ties to, if not Tonga, at least Hawaii.
Yes.
So, and his background seems to change depending on the situation. But I do know that he was born in Cali, but he certainly may have family out that way.
Well,
so.
I can neither confirm or deny that I'm
No.
right, but I can tell you that it's just something that, like I said, it was just, the piece started rolling around there, the marble, and then it landed on a fact, and unfortunately, it is what it is. All right. Well, listen, we wish our best to your friend Michael and everybody else in Tonga. Hopefully, they can regroup, recover, and basically recycle their lives without starting too far from the beginning. God forbid. What's worse is you might have to start even further back from where you were before. So anything that you can do, folks, to help would be appreciated for those folks in Tonga who are suffering from a volcanic eruption that created a tsunami wave under the water. That is, of course, on the Pacific floor. And that's just that was that's the real annihilator there as far as damage is concerned. On to better news and what we usually talk about, and we love to talk about the Canadian Football League. A lot of activity, Aaron, and you're going to be busy here. Defensive tackle Adrian Tracy is talking about coming back into the Canadian Football League.
Now, it's careful. I should note here, Adrian retired before the last season, but it wasn't due to injury or anything like that. It was due to uncertainty and concerns over COVID protocols and how the league was actually going to be proceeding. So he's basically essentially looking to reactivate himself as opposed to coming out of a retirement. So.
Yeah, and if you're, not on him, but if players start to think that vaccinations will become less of an issue, there's a few who aren't in the league right now who didn't want to be in the league when the rule became clear that they had to be vaccinated. There's a lot of players who don't want to be vaccinated. I'm not here to criticize other than to suggest get vaccinated. What are you talking about? No, just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I'm serious. Just get vaccinated for gosh sakes. Jeepers creepers. And then, basically you can come back to the league. The Argonauts have hired Jim Barker. Jim used to be the GM of the Argos, Aaron, and they had some good times when he was the GM in 2012. They won the Grey Cup. He's coming in. They haven't defined yet, right, what his position actually is. They haven't given him a shingle yet.
I'm just wondering if his pay is actually going to affect the
oh yeah
salary cap that they have.
Oh yeah,
I know that he's supposed to be brought in a new front office role, but I'm not 100% sure what that's going to be.
Well, they didn't lose any money. Murphy's gone, unfortunately, with that incident at the end of the season. So his salary, they're not paying it because he's basically been suspended for behavior on, whatever. Suspendable, they're able to fire him because of what happened. So his money is still available to Jim Barker. They brought in, I find it kind of the cart leading the horses because usually the GM or someone in that position helps hire the management, the coaches and stuff. But this seems to be a team that's being coached completely by their young coach.
Now I'm wondering what the idea is behind bringing him back, because I know he was 24-30 when he was a head coach. And as a general manager, yeah, sure. He did manage to trade for Ricky Ray, which is cool. And they did win a Grey Cup in 2012, which is also cool. But I mean, he was 49-59 at the helm. So Hopefully, there'll be less interference on his part, less involvement in the coaching role. I know that sometimes
No, that's a
managers do.
guarantee. He won't have anything to do
Jim
with
was not the type to stick his nose stick his oar in general. So
it. I think his job is going to hold Pinball Clemens's hand as the GM. So the title, whatever title they give him, it was VP and assistant GM for, I think, McCarthy, and it'll be something similar for him, I assume. And his job will be to assist, to be one of the taller foreheads, as Pinball likes to say. He wants to hire people and have people around him who are smarter than him. One thing's for sure, Barker has, at least in the management side of things, more experience than Pinball, so he can offer his experience. And, he's had some success. He went over to the Ticats and performed as a consultant for 2-3 years, I think it was. And so, this guy's a CFL lifer, right? David and I always talk on, about the fact that, the CFL recycles their managers and sometimes their coaches. And this is one of those cases where it works out fine, because I think Pinball's not looking for a GM. He's looking for a tall forehead to help him to be the GM and run the team.
Well, hopefully he'll have a little bit of luck and have some of the same success that he did in 2012.
Well, two of the best signings in the offseason were made, and that is one for the kicker that was the best kicker in the Canadian Football League, in my opinion, Boris Beattie, and of course, Tavares Daniels, who, when not injured, was a major threat and a help to Bethel Thompson in making a lot of receptions. What do you think of those signings?
Well, I'm certainly glad for Daniels coming back. I also do know that we rode Beattie's leg in the playoffs, and he certainly proved his worth there. I'm glad that he is actually coming back. This is good for him. It's good for the team. Hopefully they'll have to rely on him less and actually try to score touchdowns in this coming season. But we'll have to see what happens.
Well, that's the issue, and that's why Tavares Daniels is an important signing. Hurting the defense, Dexter McCoyle Sr. announced his retirement. The Argos will miss him. He was a key player on that defense.
No, he's going to be leaving a big hole behind for sure. There's always a time, he said, when every good thing must come to an end. I can move on well, knowing that I've exhausted every drop of me to the game of football and fulfilling many dreams that wandered in my head as a young boy. So his 6'4", 220 pounds is going to be missing on the line. But all the best to him in his future endeavors. I think it's awesome. He's had a really good career too, from Edmonton to the Stampeders to the LA Chargers and the 49ers, as well as the Los Angeles Kiss of the AFL and the XFL St. Louis Battlehawks in 2020. He's had a lot of experience. So, more power to him.
Absolutely. Hamilton, very busy signing players, key players for a Canadian Football League team. I underline Canadian, and they did a lot of Canadians, some great signings, especially Revenberg.
Oh, having re-signing Revenberg was a really good idea on their part. I'm glad they did that. He started all 14 regular season games for them at left guard last season, so it's important that they brought him back.
And then the ratio breaker and Delicate.
Yep, that is absolutely awesome that they're bringing him back as well. He got 2 years. So, started 12 games at safety for Hamilton last season, had 2 interceptions and 6 pass knockdowns, and being named their top Canadian.
And there were a couple others signed as well.
Yeah, they also signed White. They signed Richards. They signed Benchy. They picked up. So those are there's Gordon White, Jarek Richards, Joseph Benchy, and Malcolm Campbell are the 4 that they picked up at the draft. So
I was looking at the next one. And this one here. I'm wondering about this one. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers signed Caleros and gave him a raise. My
question is, who are they dumping to make sure that they can pay him, or are they just adding another hat?
Well, I was on the phone with David Morassutti. It does the CFL show with us. He would have come to have to be a part of this discussion, because a lot was going on in the CFL, and we had the hour instead of the regular half hour. the one thing we both agree on, and the fact that the Saskatchewan Roughriders, through some media, there's a good chance that the Rough Riders don't care. They're going to go over the cap. Well, having heard that, what do you think the reaction of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will be?
Well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it too.
The Grey Cup is in the West. It's in Saskatchewan, so Saskatchewan is motivated to get there, and we know the hill that they'll have to climb goes through Winnipeg.
Well, it certainly sets the table, as it were, for an absolutely fantastic season. If the Roughies have said, "Darn the torpedoes, full speed ahead," and they're going to go for it and overshoot the cap deliberately, then it behooves all of those who wish to compete to do the same thing. So,
yeah, and like I said, Saskatchewan will have a big hill to climb. They definitely will, because he's re-signed with Winnipeg too.
indeed. Again, not a surprise. They've signed one of their all-star linebackers to an extension. So this is fantastic. He was supposed to become a free agent February 8th, but he opted to stay put. Just he didn't get the sense that he would make sense to go anywhere else. And his family's already there, and they love being in Winnipeg already. So he's going to stay put.
Canadian linebacker signed by Winnipeg, Gauthier.
So this is another one of those diamond in the rough signings. He's short. He's only 5'10", but he's headed into his sixth season with Winnipeg, so that's fantastic. He had a career-high 15 tackles in 2021, while also adding 9 special teams tackles. So he's valuable for them.
The Edmonton Elks signed some receivers.
Yeah, they're looking to shore up their offensive core here. Now, that's a couple of important Canadian signings. That's Smith and Jones. Sounds like a law firm, doesn't it?
No, it's like a rock band too.
So yeah, Smith had 27 catches last season, and Jones had 29 catches. So they're going to be part of their offensive core. Hopefully, Edmonton will be able to do a little bit better this year than they did last year, and hopefully they'll hopefully, like other teams in the West, hopefully they'll make an appearance in the playoffs.
I like this signing. Calgary signed Sean McEwen, the former Argonaut. Great leader, great player, ratio buster, big time.
No, I'm glad that he's actually getting a 2-year deal. He deserves a little stability at this point. So glad to see him back with them. 6'3", 293 pounds. He's solid. He's dependable. You can trust him. So I'm glad he's back with them.
Rose and Wigan in Wigan in Calgary signed.
Yeah, and again, this is shoring up the defensive line, so that's good. Both Rose and Wigan have been effective for them. So, and they both got 2-year extensions as well. So it looks like Calgary is looking to go into this long term.
Now let's go over to hockey. I don't know if you heard, Aaron, TV sales have gone up in Toronto. And the reason they've gone up is because a lot of shoes went through some TVs when that goal was disallowed.
Oh, what is the kicking motion? I don't even know anymore, Frank.
How in danger was your TV?
You know what? It wasn't. I was watching BattleBots.
Okay.
I completely missed it.
Yeah, no, I saw it, and the first thing that came to my mind was that's a call that honestly most times is a goal, if not at least half the time it's a goal. There's lots of evidence of that fact. It isn't it's a kicking motion if you stretch it.
I mean, the thing is, earlier in the year, Ottawa scored a goal exactly the same way, which was counted.
Oh, absolutely. The internet is full of Leaf fans posting goals that counted that shouldn't have counted.
You know what? Honestly, though, if you're counting on that to help you win games, then there's a bigger problem that needs to be addressed. Because you shouldn't need a goal like that to win a game. Well,
okay. Here, it's our Friday show. We like to talk Leafs on Friday, and so why don't we? On the subject of the Maple Leafs, I think Sheldon Keefe has done and is doing the kind of job you would expect from a very, very, let me say it again, very experienced coach. He's not letting these guys off the hook. Now, the question I have for you is, do you agree with his assessment, especially in using words like soft?
I do. There didn't seem to be an appropriate level of compete from the Leafs. They seemed easy to push off the puck. They weren't winning puck battles in the corners. There are a couple players I could mention that took extremely lazy penalties when they didn't need to, approximately 120 feet from their own goal. That sort of thing has to stop. They looked directionless. They looked lost. They looked rudderless. Now, that being said, Sheldon Keefe's coaching record with the Leafs is currently, wait for it, 86, 39, and 15. So it's not shabby by any stretch. There should be no calls for him to be fired at this point. He is well over 500.
He's not the problem.
No, but there are a lot of cretins on the internet and particularly on the Twitter who seem to believe that he should have been shipped out months ago.
Are we actually paying attention to them?
No, I'm not, but it comes across my feed occasionally.
Yeah, I know. I've seen these morons who criticize Nylander, and I've seen these guys who criticize the coach. I mean, the GM.
But the fact of the matter is, he's not necessarily wrong. They did play a little soft and they did play a little directionless, but at the same time, the coaching didn't adapt as well. So he took some responsibility for that too.
Well, here, staying with the Rangers who had played Toronto. Toronto's in a tough position. They're talking about getting rid of salary, right? On the other hand, the Rangers have $7.1 million of salary cap space as they sit and as they're put together right now. Having seen those two teams together, one would assume if that money is well spent, right, they're going to be a harder team to beat for Toronto. Now, I'm not saying they're going to meet them in the very beginning of the playoffs, but if they have any kind of success, if they can get through the two Florida teams and maybe Boston, the Rangers could be a team with that kind of goaltending, and let's be clear here, folks. As much as I agree with what the coach said, the Leafs have to be able to score against really great goaltending. They have to find a way to get past a good goaltender. And part of, I think, the grief that they had against the Rangers is they had a couple of breakaways. One of them was Nylander, who's been he's been amazing in breakaways this year, but he couldn't beat the goalie. And they've had a lot of it up front. Even that goal that was kicked in, for another inch or two, it could have hit his stick. I'm talking of Austin Matthews, where it wouldn't have been a question of whether it was a goal or not. And he just did not touch the puck, which was just a matter of inches away from his stick. So the point I'm trying to make here is, without saying Campbell, I heard people talk like it's amazing how immediately people were blaming Campbell. I'm more on the idea that the Leafs offense let them down. Campbell can't stop every puck every time, and he's going to have games that he doesn't look so good. But many of those Ranger goals were lazy defensive plays that, as a goaltender, if you're on one side of the net and somebody gets a clear shot on the other side of the net, the odds of you stopping the puck are not that high, right, Aaron? And when you do, it becomes, and when you do stop one of those, it's a highlight save, right? And we know how often those are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be highlights.
This is true. But yeah, the problem really here isn't that it's a lack of finish on our part. I think that seems to be the major problem.
And the dedication to defense that Keith demands and expects. And when he says soft, I understand what he's saying. At least I think I do. It has to do with being in your own end and also going to the dirty areas with, as the word that he used was, purposeless. Right. In other words, they abandoned whatever the plan was. And because of that, they were soft. And the reason they abandoned the plan because they were soft and purposeless. And his assessment is fair. And the good news is, hopefully, with the kind of leadership the Toronto Maple Leafs have, hopefully I say this, because, when you look at what he said, Aaron, it's not much different than you'd expect the coach of the Edmonton Oilers to say, right? And it
Yeah.
was said, and the players are emotionally in the, and not that the Leafs have played that badly for that long, whatever. But that's the issue here is you got to make the players accountable.
You really do. And the problem that the coach has here is that they're all adults. There's only so much you can say to get them motivated, and after that it's on them. And if the players
Absolutely.
can't find it within themselves to get up for teams like the New York Rangers, who they are most likely going to be playing in the playoffs at some point, there is another issue that needs to be addressed.
And you don't have to go like the fans want when a player plays badly, trade them. There are other ways to sort of give them a message. There are messages that can be brought. For example, you had one guy that got put on waivers, came back, played a pretty good game, but I'm not sure he played well. Well, we haven't seen much of him anyway. And there have been some people who have complained about, guys like Simmons, right, who has not looked effective, and his salary, because of the success, Aaron, that the Leafs have had with the cheaper players, it makes the middle contract guys like the under 3 million, around 3 million guys seem expensive, right?
Yeah. It also makes it seem like you're wasting money. Like, why can't we sign more of these guys for less money? Is the prevailing sentiment, it seems, at times.
So to complete this Maple Leaf chat, where's the cap space going to come from?
See, and again, this is where long-term injured reserve and potentially COVID protocols and other things come into play. I'm not saying it's going to happen that way.
Oh, so we're talking about players who get injured and don't come back till the playoffs. Is that what you're implying?
I mean,
not that any team would do that. I mean, no teams would do that in the NHL. Have players who are injured all year and then show up in the playoffs.
I can't think of one.
I can think of three. No, just
I was saying I can't think of one. I can give you more if you want, but
that is an avenue where they could have a player who's injured and disappears, like but
Island.
But I don't think that's not the island that they're trying to fish from. That's not the island they're trying to get players from. That's an island that says that's as one of my favorite play-by-play guys would call the Chateau Bow Wow. That's a place you don't come back from very nicely. Once you've been there, you've been spanked. All right. Well, that'll be for the Leafs. Let's move on to the Montreal Canadiens. They finally signed their GM. We talked about that. The Montreal Canadiens are a team in free fall. They are now a favorite to get the top pick. Right, Aaron?
They are certainly one of them. This is very, very much true. And this is a far tumble for them compared to where they were at the end of last season, sitting on that lofty perch as a finalist. It's a hard thing for a team to go from second all the way down to behind Arizona with only 22 points, 39 games into the season. We're almost halfway through.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and they're full value for their position. They've done everything to earn that position. Even though, for example, in this game they lost in overtime, but they got a point out of the deal, so it's not like they were punished for that game. But they've played well and lost some games that maybe they wish they had back. But when you play this way on such a consistent basis, those close games that shouldn't have been close, that you should have been in, are basically you're doing the circle, right? By definition, That's why you are where you are, because you're not winning those games that are decided by a goal or less.
And that's the issue. They have been a little bit unlucky. What with Shea Weber and Carey Price being out. I'm not ever sure if Carey Price, will ever return to form. But
they said I read that he has slid back to the beginning of of making the road coming back. He's had a major setback.
Yeah, it's basically like he's starting again at day one on his knee. So that's another issue right there. So the hockey gods have not been kind. And the fact that they have a revolving door of players going into and out of COVID protocols just really doesn't help them either at this point.
Well, when you look back at last season, the lack of kindness that the hockey gods have pointed towards the Montreal Canadiens can be looked at as this year was an adjustment because what they had last year was way above what they deserved.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
if this is an overcorrection, it's one heck of an overcorrection.
And to me, it feels more like an overcorrection than it does, to use your word, than anything else. And so Vegas beat the Canadiens in OT. The Ottawa Senators, Crosby and Malkin score, so the Senators lose 6-4. How do you feel about the Senators? I like this team, but we just talked about Montreal being one of the worst teams in the league. And the one thing that Ottawa keeps doing is they play good enough not to get the first pick overall, and that's not always a good thing.
They're deliberately shooting themselves in the foot by not being bad enough. Well, in all honesty, though, the missus and I were watching the game, and Ottawa went down 3-1 at the end of the first period, and we turned it off and came back later to find it was 5-1, and then switched channels again and came back later, and it was 5-3.
Yeah.
5-4, and we were like, what happened? What did we miss? They are spurts in periods where they can play fantastically well and look like a top flight team and a contender, and then the unthinkable happens and the wheels just fall off. The great news is they do have 4 or 5 games in hand on most teams in the league, so it is possible for them to still make up some ground.
For now, the playoffs, the teams that are in the playoffs have a little wiggle room. If you look at the standings, folks, if you look at it from the wild card position, you'll notice that the teams that aren't in the wild card right now, they have multiple points to make up. They're behind 5 or 6 points. And games in hand aren't helping in that regard either because, well, not for every team. For example, the Leafs are in okay because they played so few games and they have X amount of points. So, it's pretty tough. The same is true for Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. Let's start with Winnipeg. They place Nikolai Ehlers on the injured reserve list after the knee hit. And this is one of those times where, Aaron, I don't know how you feel about it, where the penalty doesn't match the pain.
Yeah, it was unlucky when Orlov hit him. Now, that was late in the third period of their overtime loss to the Capitals on Tuesday. So he wasn't playing in their most recent loss against the Predators. But that's really small comfort. It's one of those things where if the Jets didn't have bad luck, they would have no luck at all.
Yeah, it's they such a good team. And after this, we can talk a little bit about the pandemic and how it's affecting the Canadian National Hockey League teams. So Johansson, Granlund, they lead the Predators over the Jets 5-3 to stop their skid and maintain Winnipeg's lack of point production.
Yeah, it's been difficult, and this is the Preds were one of those teams that were having issues with teams like Ottawa and Arizona. So the fact that they've managed to stop the bleeding at least temporarily here is a good sign for them. Obviously, not so great for Winnipeg, who'd like to find themselves back on the left-hand side of the score sheet instead of on the right. But we'll see how that goes for them. It's been a tough road for Winnipeg. I don't envy them at all.
Calgary and Edmonton, not much news to say about Calgary other than they're probably in their dressing rooms on their knees, bent around the corner, laughing their heads off at what's going on in Edmonton. Oh my God, what's going on in Edmonton?
I am really not sure what's going on in Edmonton right now, but having their butts kicked 6-0 by the Panthers. You've got 2 of the best players in the world on your team and you can't make it work. And I'm not sure if that's as a result, if that's entirely on the shoulders of Draisaitl and McDavid, because the Oilers have to be more than a 2-man show. There's got to be additional scoring coming from somewhere else, whether it's Puljujarvi or Yamamoto or Cassian
or Evander Kane
or
Evander Kane
or Zach Hyman.
Evander
Come
Kane.
on.
Evander Kane. Rumor is that he's playing Tuesday.
So has he been signed by them?
The implication is that he's signed. You know, his agent said well, he'll probably be able to play by Tuesday. It
Okay, so
just so happens that Edmonton's in Vancouver on Tuesday, I think.
Huh. Well, that's an interesting development.
It's a little crazy. And Sergei Bobrovsky, if that guy starts playing goal like he can, the Eastern Division, of which Toronto finds themselves in, is going to be a little tough, because that guy, if he plays well, he's finally playing like the guy that Florida signed.
Well, that's crazy. I mean, at this point, Florida and Tampa are 1-2 in the league right now, which is just for me, that's a little mind-boggling.
And the Leafs will have to play one of them, and the Leafs will have to play one of them, and Boston will be playing the other one if things don't change.
That's a nightmare scenario right there, Frank.
And then you figure, and if the Leafs do the thing that everybody wants them to do, is to win that first round, then they end up against the one or two best team if Boston can't beat the other team, right? So but you still got to beat. I know people say, well, you got to beat the teams anyway, so you might as well meet them at the beginning. No, you don't want to meet them at the beginning of the playoffs. You want to do what Montreal did, and that is build up your confidence so that when you do meet teams like that, you got a bit of a better edge, right? So yeah, the Eastern Division's really tough. The Western Division, the Canadian teams are they're so inconsistent and leading that charge. We talked about Edmonton, but now Edmonton's become very consistent. They were really good at the beginning of the year. They become really bad. Vancouver has bounced back and forth. They changed the coach. Boudreau's there now. The team is doing really well. Rumors that JT Miller's on the block and headed towards the Rangers, where it's going. Vancouver, I don't know, Aaron. All I can say is I don't know what the problem is there. They've changed the coach. The goaltending is not bad. Demko's a good goaltender. I don't get it.
Well, they're about to stick a stick into the spokes of their bike at this point, because Demko and JT Miller have both tested positive via rapid test and PCR, so they're both going under NHL COVID protocols. That was done yesterday afternoon. It's just just when things seem to start to get rolling, all of a sudden the wheels fall off. I mean, Vancouver is 6-3-1 in their past 10 games. They've won their past 2, so now they're losing their goalie. So it's something's going on here. Somebody forgot to make the sacrifice to the hockey gods, is what it basically looks like. You realize right now the only Canadian team that's in a playoff position is the Canadian team that everybody hates,
except the people. Except for a lot of people in the country, and they don't just live in Toronto, but they are the love or hate team in Canada. They are definitely the love hater team. They definitely are. And what's worse, Aaron, with what's going on with the Canadian teams, I put a post up today, and essentially what it boils down to is the simple fact that the pandemic now, because of the way Canada reacts to the pandemic, a lot of players may not sign with the Leafs, may not want to come to Toronto or the other Canadian teams that maybe could get into the playoffs with a little bit of help. So it makes things, again, it's hard enough that the Canadian dollar, taxes, the stress of playing in a Canadian city, right, which is pretty high. Doesn't matter which Canadian city. You can't BS Canadian hockey fans. They know exactly who you are. But you can go to some places in the U.S. where you can have a life and have control the intensity required. Right? You can actually turn the thing off for a little while. Here you can't, and that's how do you feel about the pandemic and the future effects it may have on the Canadian teams in the National Hockey League?
Well, I mean, we've already seen a goodly chunk of games either canceled, postponed, or rescheduled by the NHL on the Canadian side of the border, just based on our restrictions. The real issue that I'm having here is we do make up such a small portion of the NHL population, teams wise, that if everything's going good for teams in the States, and they've opened up restrictions and everything like that, and there's freer access, and they're better able to make their sponsorship and television commitments, that makes it harder for Canadian teams to do the same.
Because of the things I mentioned as far as tax and
Exactly.
the Canadian dollar. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's tough. Okay, we'll leave hockey there, except for one thing. A suspension was handed out in the AHL. Want to share it with us, buddy?
So this is something that I think has been overdue. Now, what exactly happened, I have not seen footage of. But during a game on January 12th between the San Jose Barracuda and the Tucson Roadrunners, Krzysztof Hrabika apparently made a racial gesture at Boko Imama of the Tucson Roadrunners. His teammates reported it to the referee. The AHL opened an investigation, and they determined that Krzysztof would be sitting for 30 games, 3-0, as a result of this. Now,
and repeat that part. His teammates, the players on the same team as him, reported him.
Yeah, the players on the Tucson Roadrunners. That was the player that was wronged. The player, the San Jose Barracuda players, which is the team that Krzysztof Hrabika plays for, didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, that's
so.
I misunderstood what you said. I apologize.
No, I wasn't clear enough.
You know what I was. You know what I was hoping. You know what I was hoping. Anyway.
Oh, I was definitely hoping for that too. But yeah, no, the
we're not there yet.
Roadrunner players reported him. We're not quite there.
We're not there yet. On another troubling note, former NHLer Reed Boucher, tell us about this.
So, back when Reed Boucher was a younger man and playing in Michigan while part of the Team USA's Hockey National Development Program, he was billeted with a family, and while he was billeted with that particular family, he was accused of sexually assaulting and criminal sexual conduct with a young girl between the ages of 13 and 16 years old. That festered. It was eventually reported, and he has finally pleaded guilty to a sex crime involving a minor from a case that dates back to 2011. In 2014, when he was playing with an NHL team, he also tried to solicit nude pictures from a 15-year-old girl. So that is also still under investigation. But it's one of those things where this sort of behavior gets overlooked far too often until you commit the crime of Reed Boucher, which is being not good enough to stick around in the NHL.
Well, so we'll see about
got
that.
Got demoted down the ranks and eventually was playing in the KHL. Hopefully more instances like this will come to light and players will be appropriately punished for their actions. But far too long, hockey culture sweeps this sort of thing under the rug.
Well, it's getting harder. Yeah. Let's move on to attendance at the Canadian Men's World Cup qualifiers in Hamilton, curling. Half attendance, they're saying.
Yeah, basically what they're doing is they're actually invalidating all of the tickets for all of the people that have already bought tickets, and they're saying we're going to be sending you out a code so that you can try to buy your tickets again, as it were. Everybody will be getting a refund
or a refund. Yeah.
So if you don't get a ticket, you get a refund.
Good. That's cool. In the Winter Olympics, there's an app that puts voice data at risk. This is a report, another issue coming out of China.
Yeah, this is one of those things where they're afraid that they're going to be snooping. But the mandatory app that they're telling all of the athletes that they have to download has a simple but devastating flaw in its encryption, which puts voice, file transfer, and stored medical data of users at risk. And it's a major issue for them because they are trying to track the everything that's going on there, and it's the My 2022 app that is going to be the issue.
The Rays split season, the Major League Baseball's Tampa Bay Rays, their split season plan with the Montreal Expos has been rejected. A lot of it, Aaron, has to do with the fact that the stadium's not up to date in Montreal.
I think it also has a little something to do with the fact that Tropicana Field kind of sucks too. But yeah, the Olympic Stadium in Montreal does need a little bit of work.
Yeah, they're not gonna let them do that. And here's what this creates. It creates a situation where now we know that the Rays don't really want to be in Tampa and they're looking for a new place to be. It's quite possible they could end up somewhere. I don't know that Montreal can be that place because it'll have to be a place that has, don't be surprised if there'll be some suitors who have stadiums that they'd like to put them in temporarily, and then money that becomes available, as does in the U.S. Many a stadium, they get the kind of support for their, to get a team in. They want to be a part of it. They pay for it. It's not like Canada. And apparently it's not like Tampa, where, they haven't talked about putting a new stadium in, and probably because they don't have the kind of attendance to justify it. But they have always a really good team. And if they can't have attendance under those conditions, Aaron, who's going to want to invest in a big stadium, right?
Yeah, it's really hard when you're only drawing about 10,000 fans a game. It's really, really hard for you to get anything done. So.
And of course, baseball, Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, they're actually talking, Aaron?
Well, they are planning on reopening negotiations in person on Monday. There was supposed to have been a meeting, I believe, yesterday, but I'm not sure if that came off. But yeah, this is going to be an in-person meeting in the MLB offices in New York City. So
good luck to that.
At least some sort of movement. Yeah, this is the players' opportunity to present a counter proposal to what MLB proposed last week.
And then we've got, we should have mentioned four Calgarians nominated to compete in ski jumping in Beijing.
Yeah, this is actually kind of awesome. Mackenzie Boyd-Close, Alexandria Ludit, Matthew Sukup, and Abigail Strait have all been selected to the Canadian Olympic team. I know this is based on how they performed in ski jumping competitions over the past 2 years.
And also Remy Drolet and Olivia Bouffard-Nesbitt.
Yeah, both have been added to the Canadian cross-country skiing team. They were the final two athletes nominated by Nordic Canada to the Canadian Olympic Committee after they additional 2 quota spots were handed down by Canada by International Ski Federation following a reallocation of who gets to go.
And thanks, Eduardo, for those stories. Dak Prescott is fined $25,000 for the comments he directed at the refs. No, I don't think he directed them at the refs. It was a response that he made when he found out they were throwing beer cans at the referees. Essentially, he gave a thumbs up, an emotional thumbs up to the fans for doing that, realizing afterwards when he got calmer and further away from the loss that they had, the way they lost, the Dallas Cowboys did. I don't know, Aaron, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you say things in the heat of the moment. Now, Dak did say in his apology, "I deeply regret the comments I made regarding the officials after the game on Sunday." Now, for those of you who didn't happen to catch the game, what basically happened is Dak ran the ball, time was running down. Under NFL rules, an official has to touch the ball and put it down on the line of scrimmage before the play can start off again. Dak was trying to run a hustle, no huddle offense, and unfortunately, because linebackers didn't get out of the way to let the referee do his thing, they were unable to get the last snap off in time.
They needed the blessing of the referee, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
The Raptors have run into a little bit of a dry spell here. They've got the Wizards coming up next. Aaron, is this team playing well enough, or is it the results are matching the way they're playing, or can they get better results? Do you think they can?
Well, it's not that they're playing badly; it's that they've been playing with an extremely short bench. So it gets
they
really
had 2
difficult.
regulars out last time. Yeah, so that's...
Exactly. And when you don't have points coming off the bench, it gets very hard to win the game. I mean, yeah, they have great high character guys, but they're not necessarily the guys that are dropping, draining buckets for them. So that's a bit of an issue. They have to try to find a way to win outside of that, and unfortunately, it hasn't happened for them.
Outside the sports, NDP must decide if it wants to be Parliament's conscience or win. And there is some suggestion the NDP are more interested in winning. I don't understand how not winning is what you do if you're a party.
I mean,
I don't understand the story.
Well, Jagmeet has been playing himself off as the savior and the moral compass of the political parties in Canada, but people aren't buying it. So there needs to be, I think, a pivot in their tactics.
I think he should sit in his rocking chair.
Well, as long as he pays for it the way he should, I have no problem with that. Can you imagine the furor if Sophie Grégoire accepted something like that? Like, how much hay would they be making out of that?
Not a good idea. Drivers in BC are being asked to not stop and take pictures of the flood damage. I mean, really?
Well, everybody likes a burning car. So, if you're driving along the Coca-Cola and it's been freshly repaired, why not take some pictures of it? Because when's that going to happen again?
And one of your favorite items is when can't you talk about people losing excess amounts of money? Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. What's going on there, buddy?
Well, apparently the bottom fell out. They lost approximately 8.8% of its value, and billions were absolutely wiped off the and it's there was a huge increase in trading volumes, and all of a sudden the bottom just sort of dropped out. And this is supposed to be more secure and not beholden to the whims of the market and a safe place to park cash, but it fell to like $38,000, and Ethereum fell 11.1%. So it wasn't just Bitcoin.
Yeah, and when it comes to the pandemic, it has caused a lot of problems with people losing their lives, getting very sick. But health isn't just about that. Health also is about mental state, mental frame of mind, suicides, drug addiction, depression. All these horrible things are being advanced by the pandemic, and the government of Canada has decided that they're launching a new mental health support companion app. Tell us about it, Aaron. We only got a few minutes. So do your best you can.
No worries. In April 2020, the Canadian government launched a website, an online platform called Wellness Together Canada, or WTC. As an extension of that, they have also launched a companion app called Pocket Well, which is designed to help you assess your mood, how you're doing, take a look at your body functions, sleep and heart rate and all that sort of thing. And to encourage you to try to seek the help. There is also a push on right now in conjunction with the app and with WTC to make it easier for people to connect to distress centers if they need to talk to someone. So this is a concerted effort by the Canadian government to try to make sure that we are taking better care of ourselves.
Absolutely. If you have Safari, in other words, Apple, be careful. There's a bug in it.
Yeah, and it's not just your user identity; it's actually anything that you input into Safari is something that can now be exposed. So you need to be extra careful with that.
SpaceX, Mars City. Say what now?
Well, yeah, it's looking more and more like Elon is going to try to reach for the stars, which is awesome. Now it is about a 9-month one-way trip there, so I'm all for branching out like that. Hopefully. They'll be, able to get this done, at least get something unmanned up there to start terraforming. Hopefully the theme song won't be 30 Seconds to Mars.
Gamers are excited about an Activision move to Microsoft.
Yeah, so Microsoft has actually purchased Activision Blizzard for a whopping $68.7 billion. This is going to bring together Overwatch, Call of Duty, Candy Crush, World of Warcraft, Diablo 3, Hearthstone, all of that under the Microsoft umbrella, and expose it to everyone under the Xbox One platform.
We only have seconds left, and I wish we had more time. Meatloaf passed away, one of the greatest albums of all time, the one album that parents hated the most.
Yeah, the creator of Bat Out of Hell and Bat Out of Hell 2 unfortunately passed away at the age of 74, surrounded by family. In addition, Louis Anderson, a comedian, also passed away today at the age of 68 due to cancer.
Yeah, that's a very nice man.
Yeah.
Aaron, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Frank.
My pleasure. Okay, that ends another show for Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, airing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now. Enjoy your weekend.